anybody out there cruising on YouTube, you may have come across a channel called Lazy Game Reviews. Clint, who runs the channel, spends his time making videos on PC games, some odd PC accessories like booby mouses, and more recently, thrifting videos. After showcasing the equipment he uses to make these videos, I was inspired to go out and buy the same exact equipment as he did and make my own videos. Now before I get started, I just wanted to say I am not copying Mr. LGR. I was simply inspired by him to make some thrifting videos like him. And after you watch this video, I highly recommend you check out his channel because his content is a million times better than mine. But with that, let's get started. Pulling up to my usual Sunday flea marketplace, I wasn't expecting much. Although there were a good amount of people lined up, the forecast was calling for rain, and because of that, not a lot of vendors were set up. At the entrance, we have the same guy who sets up each week and usually just sticks to selling pot and pan antiques with very little electronics. I never really find anything I like at this vendor, though the Star Wars tin was pretty neat. But moving along, I eventually did come across an antique that, while I wasn't looking to buy, did catch my attention. A really old baby stroller with a sign saying not to wake the baby.
Hey, don't wake that baby. Don't even think about it.
Does it come with the baby?
I'm back.
Does it come with the baby?
Yeah. Huh?
Does it come with the baby?
What, the carriage?
Yeah.
Get the carriage on the baby, yeah. But guess what? She is next. So you don't have to worry either.
Like I said, not a lot going on here because of the weather, so aside from the normal oddities and Wii Fit boards, because flea markets are where those go to die, there wasn't that much. But after looking for a while, I did come across some old N64 games. I ended up buying a cool looking GBA game holder for 50 cents and then cruising USA for $2. After that, things started to pick up a little bit, but nothing like it did the following week, which you'll see towards the end of this video. However, I did come across Crimson Sky's High Road to Revenge for the Xbox, complete with instructions, 1 year of old Xbox Live, and all in great condition. For $2, I couldn't say no. When I said things started to pick up a little bit, I meant that people started to bring out more games, but nothing I was really interested in, didn't already have, or was priced decently. Except for this super cool version of Payday for only $1. Oh, wait, no, wrong game. There was also another board game that accurately depicted my sex life, so that's cool, I guess. As I was leaving though, I came across the only saving grace of the flea market that day. This lady selling games at $5 a piece. I ended up buying Demon Sword for the Nintendo, as I've heard good things about it, Dream Master for the Nintendo because, well, shit, it's made by Capcom, Defender for the Atari in a shitty box, and last but not least, Mortal Kombat Trilogy for the Nintendo 64. All that for $18, not a bad deal at all. Overall though, the first week's outdoor flea market haul wasn't that good. So, it was on to the indoor flea market, where apparently there's free fun for everyone. They had everything ranging from boobies to Apple computers, but seeing as how I'm not much of a computer guy, I was looking for video game console related stuff. And as luck would have it, I eventually did find that. An Atari in its original box with a bunch of Atari games in their boxes, but he was asking $200. Are you gonna be here tomorrow?
Yep.
Alright. That's my way of saying no. I found a few other games by this dude who is pretty much permanently set up here, but he knew his game, so there was no amazing deals to be made. But the same cannot be said for the owner of the place who was selling these TMNT figures. I know they aren't really game related, but I picked up 4 of these for $1 each, and it was worth mentioning that I've sold 2 of them so far for about $100, so I made out pretty well here. Knowing that I scored, I decided to treat myself to one of my local retro stores. Now, this isn't a thrift store, but I thought I'd just show you guys it. I ended up picking up some AV cables for my Genesis and Dodgeball for the Nintendo. I then decided to make my way towards Savers out in the city, but on my way there, I decided to get some footage of me driving for use of transitions in this video, and wouldn't you know it, I caught something weird. Someone had left a bow in the middle of the street for some strange reason, and I would have picked it up, but the only thing I was using to hunt with that day were my eyes. Looking for deals. Get it? 'Cause it's a bow? Anywho, I eventually got to Savers without the need for a bow, and once there, headed straight to the board games. I did this because sometimes the employees mix up the big boxed PC games up with board games, but from what I was able to see, this wasn't the case at this location. I know I said I'm not a big computer guy, but you have to admit the old boxes PC games used to come in are sick, so I'm usually on the lookout for those. Clint from LGR has found some PC games this way, but I never have, but who knows, maybe I'll find some eventually. Moving on to the electronics, I came across the words Magnavox, and since I am not yet familiar with what the Magnavox Odyssey looks like, I thought it could have been that, but it was just a VHS rewinder. Found what looks to be an old PS2 racing controller in pretty nice shape, but I hate those things, so I passed that. And hello, what is this? I used to be a sucker for flight sticks, as generic jet fighting games were the only thing I used to be able to play on my old PC. Everything looked in order, no disc, but I just plan on using this for display purposes, so no problem there. Heading out, I saw a display case holding what I assume were the store's best and most valuable consoles. I can see why the PS1 and Sega Dreamcast were in there, but seriously, the Hyperscan? Heading out of the city and back to my area, I came across some yard sales. Now, it's worth mentioning that 9 times out of 10, aside from maybe a few 360, PS3, or Wii games, you'll never find anything of interest in terms of video games at these things. But they are worth checking out for the sole reason that every once in a blue moon, you'll come across some insane deals. I remember that I once got a Nintendo, Super Nintendo, and 15 games for each console for a total of $10. But nothing like that here. The only worthwhile thing mentioning about my visit to these 4 yard sales was my brief encounter with a dog whom, for a second, thought was a coyote about to rip my face off. Oh. Later on that same day, while visiting my girlfriend, I found yet another Savers. While she wouldn't go in because the place smells like, and I quote, pee, I happily ventured in, whereas immediately my eyes were drawn to this creepy-ass doll. Feeling scared for my life, I resorted to fleeing to the electronics section, which acted as a childlike comfort. And what could be more comforting than sim expansion packs? Now, whether or not these have activation codes and can be played or not, I have yet to know. But I feel like if I didn't buy anything, that doll would skin me alive. And so for $5, I thought, why not? And I mean, come on, who doesn't like The Sims? Was it. No more thrifting. Just darkness. Until the following weekend. The weather was much better than the previous week, and so from the beginning, hopes were high. I even ran into my friend Cam, who is also a collector. The first video game related stuff we found was from a seller who was also here the previous week. Cam was looking for an original Game Boy, so I showed him what he had, but for $30 and a missing faceplate, no one was interested.
Yeah. Looks like somebody peed on it.
You never know.
Now, I'm not into sport games, but NFL Blitz was always an exception due to its arcade-like gameplay and the fact that you can punch people. So when I saw it at the next vendor for only $1, I decided to pick it up and see if it was anything like the N64 version, which I loved growing up. I then found a game that I'd never heard of before called Yanya Cabalista City Skater. Since it was only $2, I decided to take a gamble and I bought it. Lots of PS2 games, as the next thing I came across was Speed Racer the movie video game, which, believe it or not, I've heard good things about, so I picked it up. Moving on, I came across some Genesis games in really great condition and complete in box too, which is always great if you want to resell, but because they were sports games, I passed on them. Eventually, I came across what has to be the most obscure gaming thing that I've ever seen in my life, and I wouldn't have seen it if I had not looked at this interesting lady's picture. A Resident Evil 5 snow globe, or, seeing as how it was filled with sand, a sand globe. I was hesitant at $8, but lowering it down to $7 and the fact that it came with the box ensuring for a safe travel home got me to buy it. One of the vendors was selling a lot of Atari games, and I would have picked up about 4 or 5 if not for the fact that it came with everything else you see here. I would have loved to, but the fact is that I simply don't have enough room for all of this, and they were only selling it as a bulk, which was a shame because there were a few games that I really wanted. Stumbled upon a lot of 6th generation games when I came across a snowboarding game called Mad Tricks. I had to pick this up because the back of the box stated it had mad attitude, and what could be cooler than that? Also found a DS game called Marker Man, and I've never heard of it before. The guy picking it up said he wasn't interested, so he let me have it, and it was complete in box and looked fun enough, so I thought, why not? Found what appeared to pretty much be a mint condition Game Boy Advance with 4 games in a case for $20, when this happened.
This lady over there had a box full of games. She sold me all these games for $5, no joke. What are they?
Is she still there?
Killer Instinct.
Oh, how did I miss that?
Is she still there?
Yeah, Mortal Kombat.
Where is she?
Like down over there, the first aisle.
Go put this aside for you guys.
Okay.
In all the confusion, I accidentally turned the camera off, but it didn't really matter anyway because I only ended up getting a Super Game Boy as everything else had been sold. After a huge blow to my thrifting soul, I returned back to the man with the Game Boy Advance and found some stuff in the crate. Granted, most of the stuff in there was sport related, but for 25 cents each, I didn't care and I ended up picking up some games. I got NHL 95, PGA Golf Tour 2, Mario Andretti Racing, NHL All-Star Hockey, and Dick Van Del's Awesome Baby College Hoops for the Genesis. I also picked up Pool Paradise for the GameCube, Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 4 for the PS2, and like 100 styluses, all for just a total of $2. After that, I decided to live a little and buy the Game Boy Advance from them. The games included with that were Snood, Kingdom Hearts Chain of Memories, Tetris Worlds, and Super Bust-A-Move. In respect to Robin Williams, I also found a copy of Jumanji in great condition, and for only $1, I couldn't help but welcome it into my home. I also found this computer kit for $2, and since my laptop has been acting up recently, I thought maybe I could switch to this. Okay, maybe not, but it still looked pretty neat. But why would I need to use a computer when instead I could just look up all the hints and codes to my favorite games in this super rad guide for the Sega Genesis? Hilarious, outdated, and $3. Pretty much met all the criteria for an instant purchase. And my last stop of this episode saw me come to a guy with a fair amount of games priced pretty cheaply. I ended up picking a lot here, and while it wasn't the cheapest buy at a total of $20, it was definitely the place where I got the most games that I'll probably actually end up playing. Ren and Stimpy Vidiots for the Game Boy, Game & Watch Gallery 4 for the Game Boy Advance, Scourge Hive, Real-Time Conflict Shogun Enemies, and Kuropoto for the DS, E-SWAT and Jungle Strike for the Genesis, and last but not least, Virtua Racing for the 32X. And this is the haul of episode 1, coming in at a total of around $115. Since this is the first episode, I did spend big, so don't expect this that often. I visited one indoor flea market, the same outdoor flea market twice, a retro store, 4 yard sales, and 2 savers. Now, sadly, I can't keep all this fantastic stuff, and there's a huge list of reasons why. not enough space, already have it, or I need to sell some stuff so I can go out and thrift some more. Which is why at the end of each episode, some of the items will be sold and their respective links to where you can buy them will be listed in the description box. This is so I can make more of these videos, and it just goes to show you guys that you can actually make money off of thrifting. First off is Mortal Kombat Trilogy for the Nintendo 64. I just don't want it. I got it for $5, it goes for around $16 online, but I'm selling it for $13, so $8 profit. Super Game Boy for the Super Nintendo. Awesome little device to have, but I already have one. Got it for $2, sells for $10.50 online, and I'm selling it for just that, $10.50. $8.50 profit. And the outdated but in perfect condition Fuchsia Game Boy Advance with games and case. But I already have one, so I got it for $20. Games, case, and system sell for a total of $46.30, but I'm selling it for $34. $14 profit. That's in total $30.50, and that's not even including the TMNT figures I've been selling, so really, I made off with $130.50. So I already made back what I spent. The reason I love thrifting so much is because when you come across great finds like these, it makes it all worth it. Plus, the potential to find pretty much anything is right there. That's why I encourage each and every one of you who enjoys gaming as much as I do to go out there and see what you can find. But that's it for the first episode of CGR Thrifts. Hope you enjoyed the episode and stay tuned for more.